And Connor O'Gara with us, and we always appreciate his time. He is the senior national columnist at Saturday Down South, at CJ O'Gara. You probably already follow him on Twitter if you're on it. Connor, we have made it to the end of the regular season, and it's always a crazy weekend in college football. I don't know if there was one any crazier than this last weekend. You make it through.
I survived. I am here today. Somehow, by the grace of God, I am speaking to you guys, and my head's still spinning, though. I'll admit that. I feel like I'm going to need a 30 for 30, some sort of documentary to be able to kind of recap everything, because I have forgotten so much about the pre-Saturday thing. So my brain might be mush if we're going to talk about the Mizzou-Arkansas thriller that unfolded on Friday.
Yeah, belly full of leftovers, brain full of mush. That was the dominant performance by Arkansas in the second half. It was impressive to see. Sam Pittman, he can't be coach of the year in the SEC this year, can? I mean, he engineers this incredible turnaround over a 2-year stretch. Not many people predicted that Arkansas would finish third in the West and probably playing in Florida Bowl. But, I mean, you have an undefeated Georgia here that's been number one from first to finish. So can Coach Pittman be the coach of the year? What do you think?
I would have no problem if he were to be coach of the year. I don't think he will be coach of the year. Those are two different things. Mm-hmm. Kirby Smart's going to win coach of the year, assuming that he wins the SEC championship on Saturday, which I guess shouldn't be assumed necessarily because we're still talking about him trying to beat Alabama for the first time. But I would think that he's going to get it. Typically, when we see a team of this caliber, we usually reward greatness with the SEC Coach of the Year, whereas pretty much everywhere else in sports is the coach who overachieves the most or the coach who rises above preseason expectations the most. Sam Pittman in a normal year is a great candidate. There's no doubt about it. And you can make a case for a lot of guys in the SEC. I mean, I think Lane has a good case. I think Mark Stoops has a pretty good case for it as well. I think even Saban. I mean, to get to this point, to be still one of the 6 teams standing with playoff chances, I think is a testament to him with all the talent that they lost, obviously, last year and all the turnover that they had. But, no, I don't think he'll win the award, but there is certainly a good case. I mean, just think about 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago at this point of the year, Arkansas couldn't stand the field with a Group of 5 team. And 2 years later, they were run off the field once in 12 games, and it was by a generational Georgia team on the road in Athens. Everybody else, that's a one-score game in the fourth quarter at the very least. So to me, I look at that, and I continue to tip my hat. I mean, I say on a weekly basis that nobody could have seen this coming 2 years ago, but Arkansas fans have to be just ecstatic about the way that this year has played out.
Okay, so if we point to somebody on the sideline that's responsible for this turnaround, how about somebody between the lines? And nobody's more responsible for it than KJ Jefferson this year. You know, I mean, and the knock, if you'd say it was a knock, the knock on KJ before the season started was nobody knew how accurate he could be throwing the football. Well, the guy connected on near 80% of his passes over the last 4 weeks. And they were risky passes, man, too. Mm-hmm. They weren't just dink and dunk. It wasn't Connor Bazelak. You know, he won games for this team, and it wasn't just with his legs. So, you know, and I know there are other players that you might be able to point to that rose above expectations this year, but I would think near the top of the list is KJ Jefferson.
KJ's been so huge for that team, and I was one of the people saying in the preseason that I think he is what can take this program to the next level. And if he is good in Kendall Briles' offense, which was not a guarantee because it's not what he was recruited to come play in. You know, he's recruited to play in the Chad Morris offense, whatever that is. And KJ was a big question mark. And when you heard in spring or in fall camp rather that, you know, he kind of came in out of shape and you're just kind of wondering, like, is this guy going to get it? And the Mike Woods transfer, and you just kind of wonder, all right, is it really going to be there? And it was. And he does one or two things every single week that just makes you step back and go, wow, he is special. And I don't know how he's going to be remembered. I think a lot is left to be determined with what it's going to look like, you know, with his legacy moving forward. But I've been so impressed with him and some of the plays that he has been able to make, the degree of difficulty on these throws, how difficult it seems like it is to bring him down, especially when he gets moving in the open field. He can take a team to a different level. And I got into a fight with somebody the other day who said that if Spencer Rattler were available for Arkansas, that they would take Spencer Rattler. I'm like, they wouldn't be in the market because they love KJ. They would not be. And nobody would have said that 3 months ago, but that's why you play football games, and KJ Jefferson has looked darn good doing just that.
Connor, some of the biggest news from the weekend that was over Thanksgiving is obviously Lincoln Riley leaving Norman and going to USC. What are your thoughts on him moving to USC? And do you buy into the scared of the SEC narrative that's been thrown around since the news came out yesterday?
Stunned and scared is probably the wrong word. I mean, we have fun with it because it's just sitting right there. I would say he's aware of it. He's very aware. You don't make a move like that without considering those dynamics. I'm sorry. The palm trees weren't the reason that Lincoln Riley ultimately left Oklahoma for USC. All right, it wasn't like somebody showed him the house he could be living in, and all of a sudden he just said, yep, this is the life I want to live. He's trying to get to that next level. He's trying to win a national championship. He looked at his situation in Oklahoma, and I guarantee you there was a part of him, whether he'll ever admit this publicly or not, but he had to wonder, did I maximize my potential here? Because how many first-round or number one overall picks, Heisman Trophy winners do you need to have before you kind of realize, oh, man, we still haven't even won a playoff game yet? And there's a competitive nature in this sport, and with head coaches in particular, that I think they always think that they can build, and they always think that they can get to that next level, and they just got to work harder. They just got to get this player, that player. I bet he looked at this situation and realized, I can go to USC, a conference that does not have a true national contender. Who knows what Mario Cristobal's future is at Oregon, and if he's going to seek greener pastures and head off to maybe his alma mater, Miami. And that conference is up for grabs. And if you stay at Oklahoma, you're going against the SEC. If you go to LSU, you take that bag of money that Scott Woodward was throwing around, you go against the SEC. Pac-12, go against Cal, go against Washington State. Washington, I don't know. I think that had to appeal to him. Still stunning, nonetheless, because it just felt like a message board type thing. When my buddy texted me that was really happening, I was like, all right, come on, like, where'd you get that from? I didn't believe him, but it's happening, and I kind of get it.
So you just brought up LSU and the bag of money that Scott Woodward and that program can throw at people, and still haven't made a hire. Been sitting here in Ed O Purgatory for the last little over a month, and now that he's done at LSU, has Scott Woodward and LSU starting to become the bridesmaids of college football? I mean, who else does he really have to go after?
There's always somebody. There's always somebody. Until I hear that Lane Kiffin is definitively not going to LSU, I'm going to assume that Scott Woodward is making a play for Lane. Now, who knows what that means on Lane's side, if he's willing to leave Oxford because he's got a pretty good situation, just had the program's best regular season win total ever. I think that's the move that Scott Woodward is going to try and push for. I'd be surprised if it wasn't Matt Campbell or Lane Kiffin at this point, because I still think he wants to make a splash. Look, Billy Napier was sitting right there, and Florida came in and had one meeting with him. Scott Strickland did, sat down and said, yep, you're our guy. You are it. And maybe the stench of being the group of five coach at the in-state program didn't sit well with Scott Woodward and the people that were going to be financing that decision. But to me, you're now kind of looking around, and yeah, you do kind of feel like the bridesmaid. It's like musical chairs going around right now, and you're kind of like, I don't have anywhere to sit. LSU has to be feeling the heat right now, especially after USC made the move that it did yesterday.
Well, I hear for LSU that Birmingham is a fabulous place to be this time of the year, or maybe in a few weeks. Oh, I don't know. Maybe LSU doesn't want to play in a bowl game since they don't know who the heck is going to be coaching.
Well, there's 83 bowl-eligible teams and only 82 spots, so LSU can volunteer.
13 eligible teams in the SEC. It's nuts. Connor, what does this tell you? There were 8 teams in league play that finished 500 or better, but only 3 of them finished above 500, those being Georgia, dominant, Kentucky, pretty good, Alabama, very good this year, actually, and then there's Ole Miss with a 6-2 record. You know, there wasn't too far of like the floor wasn't all the way down. Like there's Vanderbilt, and then there's kind of a bunch of mediocre teams after them this year.
It just means Greg Sankey gets a chance to flex for an entire offseason on everybody, and the bowl numbers will also probably add to that, because I think a lot of these teams are going to have pretty favorable matchups. And, the depth is there in the SEC. You don't get it twisted, but, to a certain extent, we kind of say some of this stuff tongue-in-cheek, because there are so many 6-6, 7-5 teams in the SEC who, let's be honest here, they weren't in any position to sniff a conference championship or anything like that. But, I think that there's just a lot of parity in the SEC this year. There's absolute talent, there's depth, and there's more depth in the SEC than there is anywhere in college football. I won't deny that. But this doesn't necessarily change my overall feelings about the conference or anything like that. It's probably going to make for a lot of fan bases who are maybe a little bit too optimistic in the offseason, if nothing else.
As far as the first-year coaches this year in the SEC, would you say Heupel, had the best go for it? And would there be any chance whatsoever that he pulls the Lane Kiffin the 1 year and then go to your dream job in Oklahoma?
Never say never with that. You could make the case. I would definitely make the case that Heupel has had the best year one. And if Shane Beamer had beat Clemson, I would have given that to him. But, Heupel has a top 10 offense. And in year one, I didn't think that was necessarily going to be possible. And their defense is actually better than I thought it was going to be, too. So, from that perspective, there's no doubt about it that he has had a year above expectations, considering what he inherited and what the turnover that they had. But, man, this situation is fascinating because they fired him. I mean, they fired him and hired Lincoln Riley and said you weren't good enough. They didn't care that you were the star quarterback there. Like, they said, hey, we need to go in a different direction. And for them to turn around 7 years later and say, actually, we want you back, and we want you back to be our head coach, would be fascinating. I don't think he leaves, because I think that relationship with Danny White is there, the UCF AD who left and brought him to Tennessee. I think that's the difference in this whole thing, and that's what prevents Heupel from jumping ship. But Sunday taught us just never say never, and who knows what we're going to see, because the coaching carousel is just going to continue to spin, I think, for several weeks, with the way that it is already kind of unfolded here.
Real quick, Connor, since we won't talk to you till next Monday, till after everything is ironed out and we know what we're doing going forward, does Bama have a shot against Georgia this week?
Nope. Absolutely has a shot. Georgia's winning that football game. Georgia's not losing that battle at the line of scrimmage. Alabama's offensive line played on Saturday what I thought was the worst offensive line game overall since Bama's been good last 13 years. And Georgia's front is not exactly the team that you're going to figure it out against. So I think Georgia has that advantage. I think the Dogs win by 2 touchdowns. I think it's Georgia's year. And I think getting over this Alabama hurdle kind of opens the door to end the 1980 jokes once and for all.
Connor, always great talking with you. And as we've made it through the end of the regular season, there's still a lot of football left to talk over the next month or so. Thank you so much.
It's Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means, football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered for all the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your #1 spot for all sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV to receive your bonus. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports.